Hello and welcome to the HOS Podcast. This is episode number 20 and I'm your host, Ryan Muncie. Today we have a really special episode for you. I am so excited to be able to introduce Roy Krebs. He is a co-founder of Natural Stacks. So Roy, say hello to everybody real fast.
Hello. Thanks, Ryan, for having us on.
Of course, man. It's my pleasure and I can't thank you enough for joining us. So for everybody listening, I want you to, if you've seen the movie Limitless, then you know exactly what I'm going to try to describe for you. If you haven't seen the movie, imagine taking a pill and the world going from black and white to color, or sounds going from being in a tunnel to being in a perfectly tuned orchestra pit. That's the only way I can describe it. We are going to talk today about nootropics, or smart drugs, as they're sometimes called. Think of it as mental bodybuilding. We're going to talk about supplementing for your brain function and to be able to perform at an optimal level. So sit back. This is something that we've dabbled and kind of touched around the edges of this on the podcast before, but we've never gone in depth like we're about to now. And with Roy being a co-founder of Natural Stacks, we're going to get all kinds of really cool information. So if you don't know, Natural Stacks manufactures CILTEP, which is one of the top nootropics or smart drugs on the market right now. And these guys are doing some amazing things. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let Roy tell us a little bit from his perspective what these mental bodybuilding supplements are and can do for you.
Sure. So there's quite a range. Smart drugs or nootropics. They could be pharmaceutical, supplemental, even functional foods. But for the most part, people might hear of Adderall or Ritalin or modafinil stimulants, and these are all pharmaceuticals that are fairly effective and stimulatory, but they crack you out a little bit. There's definitely some side effects, and there's an upper and a down. So you take the stuff and you're feeling great, and maybe a little too engaged, and then you have really a bad come down. Then there's another kind of class of smart drugs called the racetams, which were synthesized in Russia, I think in the early 70s. And those have become popular. They're kind of in a gray area where people aren't exactly sure how they work, but there's been quite a bit of studies to back them up, and they've been shown to be fairly safe. And then you have nutraceuticals. You have dietary supplements. And that can be really anything like caffeine or nicotine are probably the two most well-known natural smart drugs. You have ginseng, ginkgo biloba. And then there's some interesting combinations of different herbal ingredients that can have powerful effects, and that's where CILTEP comes in. That's where we are, and so these natural smart drugs or nootropics. I don't like the word drug.
Right.
So I like to say nootropics or cognitive enhancers. Sure.
Cognitive enhancers. That's great.
Okay.
Well, and that's while we're on that kind of that topic there. Let's. If you've seen the movie Limitless, then you have also noticed, or you're aware of that downside, that crash. And there's certainly on the pharmaceutical side, those are nootropics that can lead to that. But if we come down that scale, as you mentioned, to some of the nutraceuticals or those stacks that are more of supplement or concentrated food sources, we can achieve the positive benefits without that negative on the back end.
Sure. So they're safer and they're more sustainable for long-term use.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're not as effective.
Right.
At all. But it's safer to experiment with. It's safer to try out a few different things. It's hard to overdose on even caffeine. So it's a different realm, and it's easier to be in that area for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, so tell us what is CILTEP and how did you guys, did CILTEP come first, or was Natural Stacks first? You're a co-founder. Who's your partner? How'd you guys get started?
Okay, so Ben Hebert is my partner, and we launched in October of last year. So I guess we're about 9 or 10 months old. We launched with 2 products, CILTEP and Smart Caffeine. And we really, we weren't expecting such a large launch, but there was already quite a bit following around CILTEP, which is something that, we'll talk about. So CILTEP is an all-natural dietary supplement. It's a really simple formula. There's only 5 ingredients. And the 2 active ingredients are artichoke extract and forskolin, which is an extract from the root of Coleus forskolii, which is an ancient Indian herb that's been used in Indian medicine for thousands of years. So 2 very safe ingredients that you take them on themselves, taking them on their own, and there's really not much of an effect. But when you combine the 2, there's this really powerful effect. And what it does is it increases the number of messenger systems inside of your brain cells. So this enables your neurons to quickly communicate with each other, to retain information and be more engaged. So you naturally strengthen the connections between your neurons, and this helps you be really engaged in what you're doing, efficient, it improves learning, memory, and cognitive function. So on a more scientific note, what it does is it induces long-term potentiation, and that's the process of the strengthening of these connections between your neurons for a long-lasting period.
So let me just kind of ask you a question here while you're saying that. I mean, that makes it sound like this is a supplement that has incredible health benefits, not only in the short term, but in the long term. I think a lot of people think of, well, hey, I'm going to take my caffeine, you see all these pictures on the internet where, if I had enough coffee, I could rule the world, or, caffeine has a half-life and it's in your system, it's out of your system, where it sounds like some of these, these mechanisms of action are not just, one and done, but it's actually building infrastructure that stays with you.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So it helps the memory formation in your brain. So people experience that they'll all of a sudden are retrieving memories from years past that they didn't really know were there, and that also when they're learning, when they're studying, when they're working, that they're able to retain that information, and then maybe a few hours later or the next day or a few days later, they're able to regurgitate that really kind of effortlessly. You're not like really trying to do it. It happens in the background, and it's not like a stimulant where you're high on something and then there's a crash. But it's pretty subtle and it's in the background, but it's definitely noticeable. But you may not notice it unless you're really engaged in what you're doing. So if you have a to-do list, if you have a project you're working on, you'll notice really how motivated and how much you've got done in a short period of time. And you look up and realize that wow, something's going on here, and I'm just really on top of this, and it's happening.
Yeah.
It's great. For me, my productivity has skyrocketed, which is pretty cool that I work and I sell this product that has helped me substantially.
Yeah.
I see a lot when I'm reading. So I was typically kind of a slow reader, and I'd have to go back a few pages and reread a paragraph or 2 to see what I read. But when I'm on CILTEP, I'm able to just keep turning the pages, and I never turn back, which is something that I didn't notice until a little bit later on. That wow, I'm not turning back. I'm not looking to see what I read a few pages ago.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's not one of those. It's not something that you take and you're bouncing off the walls like you just drank a Red Bull or something like that. And I had a very similar experience when I first started experimenting with the racetams, or I've even experimented with modafinil.
And you've taken CILTEP?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think I've heard the story on how CILTEP started, but we'll go over that on the podcast. But I like to take CILTEP on days where I have, as you said, kind of a really structured to-do list. So
Sure.
For me, CILTEP is on a day where I've got to sit at the computer and do things that I tend to be very easily distracted. So if I have to do things that require me to sit and input a lot of data on the computer or something like that, CILTEP is definitely something that kind of keeps me focused and centered. On other days where, if I've got to just cover a lot of ground and do a whole lot of things, but still stay focused on many different tasks, maybe that would be a day for something like modafinil. But it's my understanding that we could take CILTEP with modafinil. Let's hold off on that question. We'll go down that road in just a second. But
sure.
I mean, I just want to reiterate, like you said, my first experience with taking some of these nootropics was that, holy cow, I look up and like my to-do list, is finished, and I look up and it's still 9 o'clock in the morning.
Give me some more stuff to do.
Yeah. And people ask me all the time, you're like, how do you get it all done? How do you do this? And, like I have a business to run, and, you said something that was really cool, where the business that you run is getting help out there to people, for a product or something that has helped you tremendously. So, it's really cool to be able to share with people something that has had such a positive impact on your own life and, the lives of others. So, I commend you for bringing something into the world that helps people and trying to spread that around.
Yeah, thanks. It has been a really fun experience this last year or so. We have some of the top students around the world at Princeton and Harvard that are taking our supplements. We have top tech entrepreneurs, Silicon Valley people, rocket scientists. But then we also have, just average Joes who are trying to get more out of their day or trying to be more productive, and they've seen amazing benefits, and they come back and they give their raving review, and they purchase more product. And what's amazing too is that we've had people that are diagnosed with ADHD that have been able to completely replace their pharmaceutical drug with CILTEP or reduce their level of the pharmaceutical drug to less than a couple milligrams. So that just shows you how powerful it is, and also in a range of different applications. Also, athletes are loving it. We're really now just discovering the breadth of it and where it could go and what kind of people it benefits.
So you mentioned athletes. Is there anything in here for athletes that would trip drug testing for like high school or college athletes?
No, not at all.
I know
they certainly don't test for artichoke extract.
Right. I know that forskolin is a supplement that's been used in the bodybuilding community for years. How are your levels different, and is there any kind of carryover to the way that bodybuilders have used it?
Sure. So I believe bodybuilders have used it for weight loss specifically, but the dosages are quite a bit different. The bodybuilding use, I think they take between 25 and 50 milligrams, maybe even more, whereas CILTEP only has 4 milligrams, which really doesn't sound like much, but when it's combined with CILTEP, it does have this powerful effect. And if early on when the stack was being developed, there was quite a bit of testing on increasing the levels of forskolin. People were trying up to 25 milligrams, and that started to cause some side effects where people were crashing, getting sleepy in the afternoon. So it was discovered that there was this sweet point at only 4 milligrams that you have all these great effects, but none of the side effects.
Gotcha. Well, since you kind of brought that part of it up, how did you guys come up with this formula? The whole did you just wake up one day and say, let's combine artichoke extract, and how did that come about?
No, I don't want to take credit for it, because Abelard Lindsay is the real genius behind the formula, and he's on the Natural Stacks team. So he found some medical studies, some old studies that had kind of been thrown away, and they backed up the concept behind CILTEP, and he found that there are some safe natural ingredients that can cause this effect. So what he did is he posted these medical studies and he posted his idea for a potential formula onto an online forum called longevity.org. And this happened probably 3 years ago now.
Okay.
So it's been around for quite a while now, but we were the ones that brought it to market less than a year ago. So he posted this concept for the formula and the studies to back it up. And then it really became viral in these small cognitive enhancer circles.
Right.
And really over a few years, thousands of people experimented on their own with different ratios of the formula. And so it was community developed.
You almost had like open source kind of beta testing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So that's really the cool, interesting thing about CILTEP is that it was open source developed. The community had a lot of input. So Abelard put the concept out there and continued to support people's views and putting more science out there. But really, thousands of people tried it and tinkered with the ratios, and the formula evolved over a few years until it came to the point where okay, wow, this is kind of the right mixture of these ingredients to get the most out of it, and for the general public. So this is the formula that we're seeing works well for most people. And then we came in. I met Abelard, and I said, hey man, you have something really special here. We gotta get this out there, because at the time everyone was measuring out different weights of artichoke extract and forskolin, and it's really hard to measure out just 4 milligrams of forskolin, and easy to mess up, and you need a milligram scale, and you need to look like this shady chemist, and
right.
have all this equipment and buy bulk powders of different things.
You need your own Breaking Bad RV.
Right. It seems a little sketchy. So I met Abelard. I set up a lunch with him in I think it was in Mountain View area of Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And we both just really liked our mindset and our concept and how we wanted to do the product. We wanted to be completely open source, so we show you exactly the amount of each ingredient, whereas most supplement companies have proprietary formulas.
Right.
That we didn't want to do that because for ourselves, we're not comfortable taking supplements that we're not sure exactly what's in it or how it works, or the percentage of a certain extract. A lot of things are hidden in supplements, which is really unfair practice.
And I have to say that's one of my favorite things about you guys. We'll talk about this more at the end, but I'll just go ahead and tell everybody. We are carrying Natural Stacks products at House of Strength, and I've always said with anything that we carry at House of Strength, I won't sell or carry anything that I don't use personally, and I will never take a product that hides behind a proprietary label. I mean, it blows my mind. Even things as simple as like BCAAs, you see on the shelves, it's proprietary blend, and they're cutting the BCAAs with things like taurine or something else that, I don't want that in my BCAA,
Yeah. And a lot of times they do it so they can put in less expensive ingredients and not tell you the amounts of the really active ingredients.
Right. And I think that, there's a line there, in terms of ethics, and, that's why I say I really like what you guys are doing, and that's another reason that I'm comfortable carrying you guys stuff in the gym, and that we want to have you guys on the podcast to be able to educate as many people as possible about, what's going on in the supplement industry, and why you guys are standing out above some of the others.
Sure, yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. So
you pretty much covered it. I mean, that's
that's the biggest problem is just the proprietary formulas, and a lot of times there'll be 10 or 15 ingredients in a product where really only 2 or 3 of the ingredients are actually the active ingredients. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a throw it all in there approach and see what works. And you don't get a defined effect. And sure, it might do something. You might feel something. But you don't know how it's working. You don't know what's in it. So you don't know what you're putting in the body, which is a problem.
Right.
So we want to be 100% transparent. We show you exactly what's in the formula. And then on our website, we're very open with the research that backs up the formula. We show exactly how it works. You'll see that all of our formulas have 5 ingredients or less.
That's
so
really cool.
We're never going to come up with a product with 15 ingredients, in some fancy formula and throw ingredients in there because they sound cool or something like that. We stick to just a few simple ingredients that is backed up by science, that is the effective stack for a certain purpose.
Right.
And if you want to add on to it, you can. If you want to add another ingredient, if you want to add a different supplement to make it to do something else, you can. But we want to give you the basic tools, the simple, effective formula that has been proven to work. None of this frou-frou stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a bottle of the CILTEP right here, so we're going to
there you
put
go.
this label as close to the camera as we can get it. Let's see if I can line that up. Do I have it right there?
Yeah, you got it.
So you can see right there that you see all 5 ingredients and exactly how much of each one. There's no, you don't have to go down and read other ingredients to see, what else is being mixed in or anything like that. So that's really cool. I know you guys have some new products coming out. We'll talk about those in a minute, and we'll find out what your 5 ingredients are in that protein powder. But you mentioned if people wanted to add things in or take things with, let's talk a little bit about some of the other nootropic stacks or some of the ways that people are stacking other nootropics with CILTEP.
Sure.
Let's the one that I mentioned earlier, modafinil or Provigil. You had something to say on that, and I cut you off. So go ahead and finish what your thought was there.
Well, we're not a very pharmaceutical-oriented company, so we advise to be very cautious when mixing any of our supplements with a pharmaceutical, mainly because the mechanism of action is not exactly defined, and CILTEP actually potentiates stimulants. So something like Adderall or modafinil, if you try to take that with CILTEP, it's going to really strengthen the effects of both supplements, and that's when you can experience a crash or some negative side effects. So if you were going to combine CILTEP with any sort of stimulant, we recommend to really cut down your dosage of that stimulant.
Gotcha.
So we recommend, if you want an extra kick with CILTEP, combine it with caffeine. And that's, you really, I don't think you need anything else than that.
Right.
And so CILTEP goes great with coffee. We have a product called Smart Caffeine, which we designed to be able to be taken closely with CILTEP. So I like to think of our supplements as each supplement is a tool to amplify human ability or human performance. So you have different tools for different scenarios. And I think once you get that mindset, then you realize that, okay, this is not just a multivitamin. You use different supplements in different scenarios for different goals.
Right.
And so our Smart Caffeine product is simply caffeine mixed with L-theanine, which is a natural amino acid found in green tea, which is a calming agent. So it helps smooth out all the jitters and anxiousness of caffeine. Super simple formula, only 2 ingredients, but highly effective, and it works really well with CILTEP.
So you mentioned that CILTEP goes really well with coffee, and I saw you earlier take a sip from your bulletproof mug.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll take another one.
Are you, if somebody was going to have coffee with CILTEP, would you recommend the Smart Caffeine, or would that be an either or, like either caffeine or coffee?
Yeah, you don't want to overdo caffeine. People are pretty familiar with the effects of that.
Right.
CILTEP should be taken about 20-30 minutes before ingesting anything else, and that just ensures the optimal absorption of all the ingredients to make sure you're going to get the full effect. So if you take it like at the same time as coffee or with breakfast, then you might not fully absorb all the ingredients, and it might not work as effectively for you. So personally, what I do is I take CILTEP in the morning, about 4 or 5 days a week. I take the weekends off because I don't have much of a cognitive load. So I take the CILTEP, and then about 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, I'll have my bulletproof coffee.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, I'll take a capsule of Smart Caffeine.
Okay. Now, does does the fat that you may, like if you put MCT oil or butter in your coffee, now we know that some of the benefits from those are that, they're MCTs and used by the brain for fuel. Is there a symbiotic kind of relationship there? Do those kind of enhance what's going on with the potentiation from CILTEP?
Yeah. Your brain loves fats, and it kind of helps lube everything and helps everything get going. So it does help with the CILTEP. We found that a heavy carb diet can slow down the effects of CILTEP. So ideally, you're not having a lot of carbs right first thing in the morning. That could diminish the effects of CILTEP. But
I'm just going to interject. That's an ideal situation, whether you're taking CILTEP or any nootropic.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure, but you know what? I've had a fat bowl of cereal before in the morning with CILTEP, and it still worked. So, but I don't recommend that. I myself am fairly low carb. If I do have carbs, I save it for the evening. Lower insulin response in the evening, and I find that I have a more mental engaged throughout the day when I'm not heavy on the carbs.
Yeah, I would second that wholeheartedly. I think it also has significant advantages for body composition, and that's something that we've talked about on several episodes of the podcast. But
so, do you do any sort of intermittent fasting or?
I follow the bulletproof fasting approach.
Yeah, with the bulletproof coffee in the morning.
Yes, yeah. So I've read all the fasting. I've tried every version of intermittent fasting, warrior diet, eat, stop, eat, all that stuff. I always found that I lost strength and lost muscle after the first month to 6 weeks. When you first start it, you feel great, but then you always end up losing muscle. With the bulletproof version, it's hard for me to consider that fasting because, I'm drinking, it's like an IV drip of, 60 to 80 grams of fat.
It's probably 1,000 calories or something.
Yeah, so how can you really consider that fasting? And I think that simple change makes all the difference in the world. I'm able to keep my strength up. I don't lose muscle mass the way I do when I fast regularly. If I lose muscle mass, it's because I, don't have time to lift like I used to.
And so, how often do you lift, and when do you lift? I'm just curious myself.
Yeah, I like to lift around 1 or 2 p.m. and I use that to kind of break the fast, and then I have my eating portion right after that, and that's when I really try to get in as much of those nutrients as possible, and I will have carbs in that period depending on what the lift is and what my goals are at that time, and that's the way we teach nutrition at House of Strength is no matter what approach you're following, whether it's fasting or eating throughout the day, that the best time to have carbohydrates is in that post-workout window when your body is most receptive to them. So, that's and to answer your question, right now I'm actually back to lifting 5 times a week. I had fallen off to only twice a week for several months, and I have to get back into it. So,
and are you doing like Olympic lifts?
I am. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I started working with a guy. His name is Colin Burns. He actually won the USA. He took first place at USA's a couple of weeks ago. So he's trying to teach me how to be a little bit more efficient at the Olympic lifts. So I've always been serviceable. But that's something that we always talk about here is seeking out experts and following in the footsteps of people who have had success at what you want to do. So I've got to follow my own advice and seek out expert help there. So
that's great. Yeah, I've been getting into Body by Science type workout. Doug McGruff, author.
This is just, it's too funny that you mentioned that. I've heard about that on the Bulletproof podcast, and I want to get your take on it and let you talk about it. But, when I heard that, I was like, I've never heard it outside of one other time in my whole life. And when I was at Clemson, as soon as I decided that I wanted to change majors and get into health and fitness, I started looking at, potentially getting a job as a personal trainer and starting to learn and shadow. And I interviewed with this guy who was just down the road from Clemson in a town called Seneca, South Carolina. And at the time, I was, when I was at Clemson, I was following, the bodybuilding stuff, and I was looking at athletic performance training, what they were doing in the weight room at Clemson. And so I go and I interview with this guy, and he's like, yeah, we see our clients like once every 10 days, and they do these high intensity workouts, and it's, and what he described to me as high intensity, I was like, man, I could, fall asleep doing that. And you really have to be focused and present in the moment of what you're doing. And I'm not trying to slam what it is, because, now that I'm a little bit older and wiser, I see the science and the effectiveness of it. But at the time, I completely dismissed it. I wrote it off. And it turns out that this is the same guy you're talking about. I actually interviewed with him. It could have been my first job when I was still in college, but I completely dismissed it, wrote it off, and just told him I wasn't interested. So that was a huge mistake that I made. But it's really, that's cool. What are you doing with it? How's it working for you?
Yeah. So it may not be for everyone, but I found it very, very effective. And I played football in college, and I used to lift heavy and do the Olympic lifts, and I really hadn't been to a gym in years, many years. So I was doing just, like push-ups and body weight stuff a few times a week, and I really wasn't, I wasn't getting stronger. I wasn't putting on body mass. I wasn't getting leaner, and it was taking some time. So then I discovered Body by Science, and I didn't want to go to a gym again. I didn't want to pay for membership. So I have these 2 40-pound dumbbells, and I've kind of modified a personal Body by Science type workout where, so what it is
yeah, that's what I'm going to say, for people who aren't familiar with it.
You do only several major
it's 4,
movements.
Right?
4. I think maybe I'm doing 5. Okay. I don't know. But what it is high weight, super slow until you go to total exhaustion. So if you're doing, say shoulder press, you're going to take 5 or 6 breaths on your way up and 5 or 6 breaths on your way down. So what it does is it engages all your muscle fibers, and you're staying stable, and you're going really slow. So your muscles are engaged the whole time rather than a short lift. Mm-hmm. Going slow, you really feel it working, and you feel your muscles burning. And so you may only get a few reps in, probably maximum 5, 6, 7, 8 reps. And you go to full exhaustion and you're done. And then you wait just maybe 30 seconds or a minute and go on to the next one. And I can complete my workout in about 15, 20 minutes. And I'm only doing it once a week. So I think I'm going to do it today. I've been trying to do it early in the week. And I do the same thing. I do it at about 1 or 2 o'clock, and then I eat a big lunch right afterwards.
Okay. Now, what kind of progress have you seen? How long have you been doing it, following that approach?
I've been doing it for maybe 6 months.
Okay.
And really the first month I saw the biggest gains.
Right.
And I just started to get a little stronger, a little more defined, and just noticeable. Before I was kind of stagnant at a spot where, all of a sudden I'm putting on some mass, and I'm getting a little more defined in it. And it only takes 15 minutes a week. And for me, that's great. I'm a pretty busy guy. I try to go out and maybe do some sprints every once in a while, but that's all the workout that I do.
And I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, if you are one of those people who's incredibly busy, you don't have a lot of time to devote to going into the gym, or maybe if lifting just isn't your thing. A lot of people just simply don't like to lift, but they know that there are benefits, and if you want the benefits, that would be a great approach to follow.
Yeah. I like lifting, and I do, but just the concept of getting in a car, driving to a gym.
And you're in year 1 of a business too. I mean, you've got this little baby that you have to nurture, and that requires all of your time and energy right now.
It does. And so I can do this short workout really, at lunchtime or whenever I have a little break and I don't have to plan around it or,
Yeah.
like I said, jump in a car and go to a gym with some weirdos.
Some weirdos. Well, come to House of Strength if you're in Virginia. We have no weirdos allowed.
No weirdos allowed. I like that.
Well, I've completely lost my train of thought there.
Sorry.
But let's. You mentioned before we hit record, that you've been doing martial arts for quite some time, specifically Japanese.
Sure.
Are you still doing that on a regular basis?
I haven't. The last couple of years, I haven't done it on a regular basis. I'll jump into a class maybe a couple times a year.
Okay.
But it's kind of like riding a bike,
Mm-hmm.
I recently moved to the Seattle area.
Okay.
And it's summer here now, and so I'm really trying to take advantage of that. Once it starts raining, I'm going to get heavy back into the martial arts.
Okay.
That's been my plan, but yeah. I grew up. I think when I was 5 years old, I started Aikido, which is a completely defensive, very flowy martial art where it's throws and pins, joint locks.
Steven Seagal was like
Steven Seagal, exactly.
Right.
I love
Okay.
Steven Seagal.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've done that for many years, and then I also got into some Japanese jiu-jitsu. So that's stand-up jiu-jitsu. It's not the grappling.
Okay.
And that's really kind of the origin of a lot of martial arts was that Japanese jiu-jitsu. And I enjoyed that. I did that pretty heavily for a couple of years, and I backed off that. Aikido's really been my go-to.
Okay.
I've experimented a little bit with some Russian martial arts, Sistema specifically,
Okay.
which is really cool. I like Sistema. There's no uniforms, there's no ranks. It's very open, and there's not even really any set techniques. There's a few principles, and there's definitely some concepts for techniques, but it's very much, do what's right for the moment.
Okay.
Type feeling, which I thought was a cool concept.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Russian martial arts at all, so that's new to me. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, check out Sistema. It's kind of taking off right now in the United States.
Okay. We'll put that in the show notes. What? How do you spell that?
Sistema, Systema.
Okay. All right. We'll see if we can't find a resource for that. We'll put it in the show notes, and
Yeah,
everybody
it's
click on the
pretty
link.
cool. I plan on experimenting a little more with that this winter. Yeah.
Well, let's go. We've got a couple of questions, about nootropics. We'll rattle off kind of a rapid fire there.
Sure.
And then we'll move into, we've got some other Natural Stacks products that I want to talk about, before we have to wrap it up. So going back to kind of stacking the nootropics, racetams we mentioned were kind of in that area that were between pharmaceutical and nutraceutical.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken racetams? Do you have experience with them?
Yeah, but on occasion, I'm not a regular racetam user.
If you had to pick your favorite, or if somebody was going to use just one, so for people listening, there's piracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam, that there are several different versions,
So I'd probably choose piracetam.
Okay.
It's the oldest. It has the most studies behind it, and it stacks really well with CILTEP.
Okay.
So if you're going to be looking for something that you're going to be taking on a regular basis, that's the one I'd recommend. I like phenylpiracetam, which is really fairly stimulatory. It's actually banned in Olympic sports. But I only do that maybe once a month, and I do it if I really need a turbocharge.
Okay.
And what I like about it is it only lasts maybe 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
So it's stimulatory, and it gets you super engaged, but you know that it's not going to last forever.
Right.
Like modafinil kind of is, for me, it's too much.
Right.
I've taken it on occasion, and what I do is I only take maybe 50 or 75 milligrams.
Yeah.
Much less than the actual, I think 200 milligrams is a standard dose.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have the 200 milligram tabs. They're scored, and I just break them in half. I've never taken more than 100. And if you take that, if you take it after 8 a.m., Good luck falling asleep.
No, and I get a pretty bad come down off
Yes.
modafinil. I get this headache, and it's not a very nice feeling.
Well, let's talk about that headache, because I think I have an explanation for why people are getting those headaches. I think it's because the paracetams, they basically deplete choline stores. I know.
Okay, I was talking about modafinil, but
oh yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah. I looked at my notes and I saw paracetam, but yeah, modafinil. It depletes choline stores. Is that, have you experienced that, or is that accurate?
I'm not exactly sure.
On the days that I take modafinil, and I'm like you, I maybe take it once a month or something like that. I always take choline with it. And
not a bad idea. So choline, acetylcholine in your brain is the neurotransmitter that is responsible for executive function and really engagement. So I can see how it could deplete that for sure.
I think that's why the headaches come, and
people get headaches from too much choline as well.
Yeah. So it's tricky. It's definitely one of those things where, as you mentioned before, and I'll reiterate it now, it's, you're messing around in some gray areas. You want to be exercise caution and, kind of pay attention to what's going on, and, adjust as needed. Everyone's biochemistry is a little bit different. So, let's talk about choline. I mean, is that something that we should be taking if we're using a racetam or even CILTEP?
It's not necessary for CILTEP.
Would it help?
Perhaps. And people that, the only side effect that we've heard from CILTEP is that some people get sleepy in the evening, which is actually kind of a nice thing, opposed to most smart drugs where you can't sleep, or, you get really shitty sleep. So in those people, adding some choline sources has helped alleviate that. So in some cases it could help with CILTEP, but definitely not necessary.
Right.
Most people say that the racetams should be taken with some source of choline. There's some studies to back that up. But it's the same thing where you have to experiment. Some people are naturally very dominant in choline, and if they have extra, they're going to get negative side effects. Right. Some people are naturally deficient in choline, and they need an extra boost. So, I would recommend starting really small and increasing the amount until you find your sweet spot.
It's also important to be aware of the amount of choline in your diet too. If on that particular day you eat, a dozen whole eggs, then you're getting a boatload of choline there. So you need to take that into account. Or if you eat 5 or 6 whole eggs every morning, as I know some people do, then you need to take that into account as well.
Yes.
And by the way, whole egg yolks are one of the best dietary sources of choline for people listening. So.
Absolutely. Keep them running.
Yeah. Try not to break the yolk when you cook it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think as far as rapid fire stuff goes, that's all I really wanted to make sure we covered there. Well, so one more on the choline.
Sure.
Is there a benefit or an advantage to going alpha GPC over regular choline?
Perhaps.
Okay.
I haven't experimented too much. Like I said, I don't take racetams very frequently.
Right.
And so I haven't had the need to take choline. But I know that alpha GCP is known to be the highest quality and perhaps the best absorbable. But there are other forms, less expensive, that I think have shown to be just as effective.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alpha GPC has a lot of other uses or reasons for people to supplement with it too. So, I think, whenever I'm looking at supplements, you used the analogy of a tool earlier. So, if I've got to carry, as few tools as possible, then I want each tool to kind of be, a Swiss Army knife to serve multiple functions and purposes. So, with alpha GPC, that's another one that's been used in powerlifting and bodybuilding circles for what it does for the nervous system. Those are sports where optimal nervous system performance helps, to physically produce force and move loads. So, you can take alpha GPC to get the cognitive benefits as well as, some of those physical performance benefits. I know that I've heard, I don't remember exactly why, but I've heard JJ Virgin talk about supplementing with alpha GPC to facilitate recovery, I believe. I know she had some kind of surgery and she took it to enhance recovery. I'm kind of lost or not recalling exactly why, but I know that there are multiple, reasons to take the alpha GPC. So
yeah, I haven't done heavy research into it, so I don't have much to add there.
Okay. Well, I think that really is it on the rapid fire. Are there anything you can think of that you want to throw out there?
Sure. Something that really changed my mindset about supplementation, and I know that Abelard Lindsay is really heavy into this, is the Braverman assessment. Have you heard of Dr. Braverman?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he wrote this book called The Edge Effect. The Edge Effect. And what it is he developed this test. It's maybe 100 or maybe even a couple hundred, probably about 100 questions, that what it does is it helps you assess which neurotransmitters you're dominant in and which one you're deficient in. So everyone is naturally dominant in one neurotransmitter, right? So there's 4 main neurotransmitters. You have dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and acetylcholine. And each one has different effects. So, GABA is more emotional, relaxing. Serotonin has been known to help sleep, make you feel good. Dopamine is the reward. And then acetylcholine is this executive function. And so I found that I'm naturally dominant in serotonin. So I don't want to take supplements that increase serotonin, because I'll get some negative effects there, because I already have this amazing store of serotonin in my brain, but I'm slightly deficient in dopamine. And so maybe that's why I really like coffee, because coffee helps increase dopamine. So I highly recommend taking that assessment. It's online. You can buy the book, but you don't have to. I think there's some resources online that have the test.
We'll see if we can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, and afterwards I can maybe send you some links.
Okay.
But it's once you have a better understanding of your own brain, and once you realize which neurotransmitters are affecting your own feelings and your own well-being, and which ones you're dominant in, which ones you're deficient in, then you can begin to supplement and eat the right foods to increase the amounts of the ones you're deficient in. And that's what he calls the edge effect. Once you figure out your right balance.
Yeah,
But everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. So you can't just say everyone needs 1,000 milligrams of choline,
right?
Because some people really don't need any choline.
Right. That's really cool. I like that approach, because that's something that, I think as a strength coach, that's something I learned very early on, from, whether it's powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever the pursuit is. You always try to identify weak points or weaknesses, and then you want to bring them up so that as a whole, we make progress and you get better, you get stronger. So it's cool to think about the brain and those neurotransmitters that way. And as you were talking, something kind of came into my mind. I know that this may be outside of both of our scopes, but this would be something interesting that, maybe there is research out there on this, but, you mentioned that some people may be deficient or lowest in serotonin. I know that a lot of, or most antidepressants fall under that selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor category. Sure. There's got to be some research or somebody doing some experiments to find out whether or not, depression is simply, the neurotransmitters being out of balance. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so you can be born, and you might be naturally deficient in serotonin, but also your environmental stresses, what you eat, if you exercise, if you're under a lot of stress, those can get your neurotransmitters out of balance as well.
I recently read a book. Oh gosh, it's called Leaders Eat Last. I want to say it's Simon Sinek. It's the same guy who wrote Start with Why. But in that book, he talks about, it goes into a lot of detail about corporate environments and environments in the workplace, and how we are all wired with the need and these feedback systems that, it's all centered around oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, things like that, and that they are feedback systems that tell us to do more of this or, less of that. And, I wonder if there are ways to balance those neurotransmitters. Of course, you could use supplementation to do it, but also certain actions.
Of course, yeah.
So, if we can do something that increases oxytocin by, doing something for others, or getting that human connection, where you're helping somebody, you're going to boost oxytocin, you're going to boost some of those other neurotransmitters that you may be lacking in, and that will actually help what may be misconstrued as depression.
Absolutely. I mean, even just rest or exercise can have a profound effect on different levels of neurotransmitters. So really pay attention to your feelings, how you're feeling. Your emotions, your feelings, they come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And really what it is your balance of neurotransmitters at the time.
Yeah.
So if you can become really introspective and understand that, hey, I'm kind of feeling a little more emotional than I normally am. Maybe you're low on GABA, or hey, I'm really kind of a little too hopped up. I got too much, I'm a little jittery right now. Maybe you have too much choline going on, or dopamine. So that's kind of, and I'm not quite there yet. I think I'm getting there, and I can self-assess and understand how I'm feeling and maybe why that is. But I think the farther along you go on this path of looking into supplements and understanding your brain, how it works, you can become really, really self-aware. Mm-hmm. And once you have these feelings of depression or whatever it is, then you can realize it pretty quickly and correct it pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I think, you said something that was really cool there too, like, you're not there. I don't think any of us will ever get there. And I think that's the point, is to go as far down that road as you can. And, there's the old saying about, I forget how the whole thing goes, but, the idea is not to master others, but to master yourself. And the more self-aware you become, the more you learn about those things, the better equipped you are. And I guess this is the coach and me coming out is, once you go down that way with yourself, the more you'll be able to help others kind of come to that point of self-actualization and to be able to help them do what it is that they want to be able to do in life. And, we talked about that earlier, to be able to help other people, with that same transformative process that has helped you. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the other stuff that Natural
Sure.
Stacks is putting out there. You guys, the science, like you said earlier, is always there. You guys have an amazing magnesium product. You guys have a great vitamin D product. Your creatine is really cool. We have all of those on the shelf, as well as the Smart Caffeine behind me.
Awesome.
So I guess briefly, let's talk about maybe the magnesium, the creatine, the vitamin D that we haven't touched on yet. I love the vitamin D because you guys, it's 5,000 IUs per dose. I don't have to take 10 pills to get that dose.
Yeah, just one.
And it comes with coconut oil, not some other crap oil. So
exactly.
Why do we need an oil? Why is it cool that it's coconut oil? Talk about the dosing for the D itself.
Yes. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and just like vitamin E, vitamin K. So you need to ingest it with some sort of fat source to actually absorb it correctly. And that's why vitamin D products are typically in a capsule or in a gel cap. Mm-hmm. Run away from a vitamin D that's in a tablet. It's not going to work. But most of the vitamin D products on the market are combined with a really low-grade soybean oil or corn oil. And these are just, highly oxidized, low-grade oils that probably aren't even fit to be in a cooking oil. So they throw them in these vitamins. It's really pretty bad. Sometimes you can find a vitamin D that's in olive oil, which is a little better. But we wanted to take it a step further, so we found the healthiest oil out there, organic expeller pressed coconut oil. Yes. And so that's what we mix the vitamin D with, and it's actually pretty funny. We get some customer service questions that are like, what's going on? My vitamin D gel caps are becoming cloudy. They're kind of solidifying. What's going on? And I said, that's the coconut oil. That tells you that we're actually putting coconut oil in there. It's just the temperature. It must be getting cold.
Yeah, take them out of the refrigerator.
Right. And then our magnesium product, we talked to a few magnesium experts and found exactly which types of magnesium are the most absorbable. And that's the biggest problem with magnesium supplements is the rate of absorption. Okay. So magnesium oxide is the most common magnesium supplement out there. That's probably the one you'll see in all multivitamins, and most magnesium supplements.
And I'm glad you mentioned multivitamins. That's something that we've talked about. I've covered that on the blog. I've talked about it on the podcast before too, where most multivitamins are using the cheapest form of a vitamin, and it is not bioavailable. Right. When I was in school, we actually had to do an experiment where we put breakfast cereal in a blender, and you crushed it up. You basically powderize it, and then we put it into a magnetic field, and you could actually pull out the supplemented form of those like zinc oxide, magnesium oxide, and all
synthetic.
That stuff. So, yeah. But that's really cool that you guys are putting, again, the highest quality form of whatever it is that your supplement is.
Oh yeah, I take all of our supplements every day, and so does everyone on our staff, and we're not going to put something out there that is something that we wouldn't take ourselves, and we're constantly looking for the highest quality ingredients. What's the most absorbable? What's going to have the greatest effect?
So on that magnesium specifically, what's different about these forms? And it's 3 different types of magnesium, right?
Yes, 3 different types of magnesium, and they're all the 3 types that are known to be the most absorbable. So magnesium oxide found in most supplements, I think, is only like 6 or 9% that actually gets absorbed. Mm-hmm. And so ours is a much higher percentage, and we actually feature a new type of magnesium called magnesium threonate, which was developed at MIT, and it's been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and help improve cognition and memory. So we have, I think, there's the highest concentration of magnesium threonate in there, and then we have magnesium taurate, which helps relieve muscle fatigue and soreness and actually help build muscle. And then we have magnesium glycinate, which is great for sleep and deeper sleep. So it's really the best magnesium on the market. I'm very confident in saying that.
Awesome.
So we're proud of that one, yeah.
Well, I just started taking that last week when our shipment came in, so I don't have experience yet to speak of, but I have been taking it, and hopefully I'll be able to, give you guys a positive review on that once it, runs its course.
Yeah, so take it in the evening. I found that once I started taking it, I was able to sleep deeper. I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
When I first started taking it, I had some really vivid dreams, which was cool. It's like, okay. I don't know if some neurons were connecting while I was sleeping. It's just...
and do you follow the label instructions? You take a dose in the afternoon and a dose in the evening?
I do. Sometimes I miss the afternoon dose. Just I forget about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty diligent. Every evening, I definitely take at least 1 dose of magnesium.
Okay. And then the creatine. You guys have some cool stuff in the creatine that I've never seen in creatine before.
So it's really it's really a groundbreaking formula, I think. We added salt to magnesium, to the creatine. And so there's several studies that show that salt, sodium, and creatine share the same transporter, And when you're deficient in sodium, you don't get the full absorption of creatine.
So when you say the same transporter, do you mean that sodium potassium pump that would bring sodium and creatine as well into the muscle?
Exactly.
Okay.
And a lot of people take creatine after they work out, and you're typically sweating when you're working out, and typically deficient in sodium. And so you're not going to get the full absorption of the creatine unless you have some sort of salt source. And so we threw the highest quality salt in there, Himalayan salt, and also fenugreek extract. And fenugreek, there are some products that use fenugreek out there. Fenugreek has been shown to activate an insulin response, similar to simple carbohydrates. And I think it's pretty well known that creatine works best when taken with carbs. But in this formula with the fenugreek, you don't have to take carbs to get the full benefits, the full absorption of the creatine, because the fenugreek activates the same response as the carbs would. So you get the full benefits without having to take the carbs.
Awesome. So with the fenugreek, and if it is, I guess you said it's insulinogenic, right? So it's promoting or prompting an insulin response from the body. How big is that response? I mean, are we talking enough to, drive the creatine into the muscle and that's it? Or
it's not a big response. You're not going to feel tired or anything like that.
Right.
But it is enough to effectively kind of open up your cells. I think most things are absorbed the best when you have a little carbs, when you have a little bit of the insulin response.
Right.
And so it does that without having to have any carbs.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay.
And I like creatine. Really, it's well known for its physical effects in muscle building and lean muscle.
It's one of the few sports supplements that has a host of scientific literature, research.
Thousands of studies. It's probably the most well-known, well-studied supplement out there.
Yeah.
But what people don't really realize is that it's great for your brain. It's great for cognition.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but I get it. I notice it. My mental energy and mental endurance. So I take creatine either mid-morning or mid-afternoon when I'm starting to lag a little bit.
Okay.
And I feel it. So I take creatine every day, and I take it more for the brain benefits than I do for the body.
Yeah. So, and that was going to be my next question is, how are you using, I'm assuming when you say you take creatine, you're taking your creatine. So
yes.
You use just one dose and you take it when you just said, or?
Yeah, I take 1 to 2 doses. When I work out, the days before and after I work out and the days of, I make sure they get a full 2 doses, okay, which is a total of 5,000 milligrams.
Okay.
But on normal days, I'll just have maybe 1 dose, sometimes 2, and that's 2,500 milligrams per dose.
Okay.
And like I said, I like to take it mid-morning or mid-afternoon because that's when I feel the best cognitive effects from it.
If somebody wanted to take it for more of the physical benefits as opposed to cognitive, would you recommend what, I guess in the performance world, it's always been before and after a workout? Right. Would you kind of book in a workout with this product?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think there's more studies to show that after workout is more effective than before.
Right.
But you can do both. And as long as you have the creatine available for your muscles to use, as you're activating your muscles, it's going to work.
Awesome. And you guys have some new products coming down the line as well. You have a branched chain product and a protein, right?
Exactly, yes.
Right. So what can you tell us about those before they hit the market or as they hit the market?
Right, so this is going to be my first time talking about it in the public. It's
awesome.
We've been developing these 2 products for quite a long time now, and so they're finally coming out in just a couple of weeks, probably when this podcast comes out.
Yeah.
So the protein, I'll start with that. It comes completely from grass-fed, pasture-raised cows.
Awesome.
So the healthiest cows out there, which are the most nutritious, obviously.
Right.
And none of these grain-fed, GMO, factory-raised cows that are pumped with antibiotics and growth hormones and everything else. So the cool thing about our protein product is that it's a 2-to-1 ratio of whey protein to collagen protein.
Awesome.
And that's something that no other protein powder has.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised because people seem to forget about their connective tissue, until all of a sudden they have these aches and pains, and I'm like, shit, I got to do something for my knees or my elbows or my ankles. But we want to be preventative, and so when you have the 2-to-1 ratio of whey to collagen, not only are you getting the whey benefits of the lean muscle growth and the immunity, but you get the collagen, which it helps hydrate all your connective tissue, improves flexibility, reduces inflammation. So you really need both those. And if you look at just natural sources of protein out there, collagen is prevalent, but no one supplements it. They think that just whey is the only.
Well, and I think that path that you're going down right now is natural sources of protein are full of collagen, but we don't eat them that way. And if you look at the way we used to eat, and that typical paleo approach of if you cook bone-in meats, and if you think about soup bones, or I just had a leg of goat over the weekend that I got from the farmer's market, and I put it in the crock pot specifically because I wanted that marrow that was inside the leg bone. And man, the next day when I hit the gym, I felt so strong. I had the best energy that I've had in a long time. We don't get collagen in our diets the way we don't
at all. It's almost like we've removed it from our diet.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get it back in there. And like I said, people forget about their joints and their connective tissue, but it's everywhere throughout your body. And you're not going to get the full muscle benefits, the full muscle growth, if you don't have the connective tissue to back it up.
Yeah.
So you need both, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think your body is smarter than you realize, and it will not lay down muscle tissue in a way that makes it. Your body's not going to make its muscles stronger than the connective tissue can handle.
Right.
There's a system of checks and balances there. So, if you think you're doing everything right, but you're like, well, why am I not getting stronger? Why am I not getting bigger? A lot of it could be because you're not providing that full 360 spectrum. Your body's not well rounded. So it's actually, it's got the emergency brake on to prevent you from, hurting yourself.
Exactly. You're exactly right. So you need collagen. That's why we made sure to get it into our formula.
That's awesome. You got me so excited now. What else is in here?
Well, here's the other ingredient is bovine colostrum. So also from grass-fed pasture-raised cows is colostrum, which is known as first milk. So it's when cows are feeding their young, before the actual milk comes out, the first milk is this stuff called colostrum, which is very high in immune modulating growth factors. So this stuff, it's meant to nurture a newborn, to give them all the antibodies, the disease fighting benefits, and then also the growth factors so that they can grow strong quickly. And so that's a really great ingredient to throw in there. It just makes it more effective. So whey protein has some of these immune benefits and some of the growth factors, but the collagen just provides an additional amount, so it's more effective.
So with that colostrum, are you, I'm sure that there are some proprietary steps in the manufacturing process, but are you guys freeze drying that, or I'm sure that it's as delicate as it is, you have to make sure that you're protecting, all of those positive, ingredients or.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it is freeze dried. We don't make the actual ingredient.
Right.
We source it, but we definitely made sure to find the highest quality source in the world. And so it comes from only grass-fed pasture-raised cows, and I know that they use a very low heat, low pressure processing mechanism with a light filtration that's not heavily filtered and all these things that can damage the compounds.
And that was going to be my next point, is so on the user end of this product, people using it should be aware that you're not going to want to put that ingredient in boiling water, or you probably wouldn't want to put it in really hot coffee, as it would denature the proteins. You want to
exactly
be very gentle with mixing and its use.
Exactly. So collagen can handle heat, but whey protein and colostrum, they can't. Well, I mean, they can, but you're really going to break down the good stuff that you want.
Right.
So mix it with cold water, lightly mix it into your smoothie is the best way, but really just 6 or 8 ounces of water. It tastes great. So we have 2 flavors, and we use the highest quality ingredients we can find: raw Ecuadorian cacao,
okay,
or Madagascar vanilla bean.
Awesome.
So those are our 2 flavors, and that's it. Those are all the ingredients. There's no sweeteners.
Okay.
There's no stevia. There's no xylitol. There's no sugar whatsoever. The formula simply doesn't need it. It tastes awesome without any sort of sweetener or artificial ingredients or coloring or anything like that. So that's it. There's 4 ingredients, and it's everything you need.
Awesome. That is. I can't wait to see this. What are the sizes going to be? Like 1 pound,
2 pound bag.
Okay.
And I believe that comes out to 48 servings.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, 19 grams in a serving. So there's 16 grams of protein in each serving, and that's a 2-to-1 ratio of whey protein to collagen protein.
Okay. And you said, so it's a 19 gram serving, 16 grams of protein?
Exactly.
Awesome. And then, wow, that's cool. I can't wait.
We're excited for that one. It's like I said, we tinkered around with the formula for quite a while, and it took us the most time just to source the highest quality ingredients. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to find protein powders that come from grass-fed, pasture-raised cows.
Yeah.
Everything is just factory farm these days, which is unfortunate, but we were able to find a really high-quality source for that.
Awesome. Well, again, I got to thank you for putting in the legwork and bringing something like that to the market for those of us who want that. So that's really cool. What about the branch chain product?
Sure. So branch chain amino acids, it sounds like you're pretty familiar with them. You probably take them already.
Yeah.
So branch chain amino acids are a subunit of protein, and they are the part of protein that's most prevalent in your muscles. I think 35% of muscle mass is made up of branch chain amino acids. So BCAAs can increase protein synthesis. They can help you build muscle. They can also help you preserve muscle. So it's an effective tool to use when you're lifting, when you're working out, to help build muscle and preserve what you already have, so you're not catabolizing your muscle. We like to take it before working out, so you have it available, so your muscle's not going to naturally break down if it's looking for something for an energy source. Mm-hmm. And then also, if you're dieting and you just want to preserve your muscle mass, if you're dieting and you want to just attack your fat, not your muscle mass, BCAAs will help you preserve your lean muscle mass. And so what makes our product different or better, it's derived from all natural botanical sources, where, once I started doing some research into branch chain amino acids, kind of shockingly, I found that almost, I'd say 99% of the BCAAs out there on the market are derived from either human hair or bird feathers.
Oh.
And human hair is preferred because it can still be labeled as vegetarian.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Where are they collecting this human hair? Do they sweep it up off of barbershop floors, or?
I don't know. I don't know. It's really those are the sources of the amino acids and supplements.
That's disturbing.
It comes from human hair, bird feathers, or sometimes hog hair.
Gosh.
So not exactly what you want to be taking. Our branch chains come from natural botanical sources. They come from plants. They go through a proprietary process. Again, we worked hard to find the right supplier of that. And then the other thing is that we mixed our branch chain amino acids with beta-alanine.
Okay.
And I think you might be familiar with beta-alanine.
Yeah.
We use kind of a smaller dose, but it should still be effective in reducing lactic acid buildup so that you can work out longer and harder and help reduce soreness. And it also helps buffer pH levels. So sometimes diet-induced, like a ketogenic diet can really mess up your natural pH levels. and beta-alanine can help correct that. But the main thing is reducing lactic acid buildup in your muscles so you can train a little harder, a little longer, and reduce the soreness afterwards. Yeah. So we designed our branched-chain amino acids to be kind of a pre-workout, or really you can take it any time, and the beta-alanine might help a little bit with some energy. Like I said, we used a kind of a smaller dose. There's 1,000 milligrams of beta-alanine in each serving. Okay. But it's a great addition to the branched-chain amino acids. It's another natural amino acid, and it complements it really well.
Awesome. Well, Roy, I think I'm gonna have to let you get off here. I
we've been talking for a while here.
Yeah, when I convinced you to do this, I think I sold you on an hour, and we've been on for an hour and a half already. So, again, man, I cannot thank you enough. I think you and I could probably sit here and talk about this stuff all day long, and we're actually going to be at the same conference in about a month and a half. So I look forward to being able to sit down and talk with your whole team and
absolutely
see you guys in person. So.
Well, we're stoked that you started carrying our products, and I'm happy that you're able to share them with your clients. And
I'm happy about that too. And that's the next question was going to be where can people find more about natural stacks, CILTEP, nootropics? If they want to get in touch with you, where should they go?
Sure, naturalstacks.com. Stacks like a stack of books.
Okay.
And naturalstacks.com is our website. We're starting to get big into video. So check out our YouTube page. Everything's just at Natural Stacks.
Okay.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We try to be all over the place.
Okay. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes so people don't even have to search. They can just click on it. And,
awesome.
So for everybody listening, make sure that you go to the blog version of this. I know a lot of people will be listening on iTunes as they drive or do whatever their busy days have in store. But check out the blog version on houseofstrengthgym.com. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter. But the blog version, like I've alluded to here several times, will have show notes. You'll be able to click on the links and get more of the information that we've talked about. So, Roy, before we let you go, we close every podcast with kind of a 1-2 close.
Okay.
And I've kept you in the dark on this one, so this will be off the cuff. It's kind of part A and part B of the same question.
Okay.
So the question overall is, what's the number one thing that you want people to take away from this? Part A would be kind of on topic. Part B would be off topic. If you could give people just one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, so the first part, I would say try to be introspective and understand yourself, understand your body, understand where you're sore and why you're sore, how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. And the more you can be self-aware, the better you can optimize yourself. So the better you can utilize these supplemental tools, the better you can utilize certain functional foods to perform at a higher level. The first step is really understanding yourself. And I think that's really important. What was the last one? Just the best advice?
Yeah,
just off topic.
Off topic. If you can impart one piece of wisdom to the folks listening, what would you tell them?
I've said this before too. Avoid the hassle and do cool stuff. So get past negativity, shed that stuff out of your life, and just try to do stuff that makes you happy. Do cool things. Get out there. Try new things. Experiment. Change it up. Try to break your routine, and I think that's really important as well. Just to keep your mind fresh and stay active and healthy. And that's what I like to say. Avoid the hassle and do cool things.
Do cool things, man. That's awesome. I love it. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And Roy, thanks for hanging out with us today, man. This has been great.
Yeah, Ryan. Cheers. Hope to talk to you soon.